All right.
No, good evening.
Yes. Yeah. Very quickly, I told you what we'll do is just for you to just tell me what you have done so far after our last um deep dive, so that we can move on.
What I'm normally doing this time around, eating fuel. I'm not no more eating starchy food. Eating vegetable, eating carrot, eating garlic, mm, drinking garlic with hot water, garlic and ginger. I pounded it, I filter it, I put it inside my flask and drinking it with hot water. Another one I normally do is this. Taking the exercise, but at times I did not take it sincere. But once I take it, I feel a bit relief in my body, and I sleep very well. But there's a time I went to one of our relation, one of our friends, but we didn't come back on time. We came late. Even I did not take my bath throughout that night. I did not sleep. It was on Wednesday. I did not sleep.
Why?
I did not go to school because I came back early. I was very weak, so I didn't go to bed early, and I did not take my bath. To be sincere, telling you the fact, the truth. Even that I did not sleep at all throughout the night. But in the morning, took my bath. I sleep throughout. I did not go to the school. Even the next day, I did not go to school so that I will regain my strength. What I normally observing this time around, I'm no more feeling odor because he told me to use hot water. I should boil hot water, add local salt. I bought local salt from Enugu State. I'm using it. Apply some. I put some quantity the hot water using it to clean my breast. I'm no more feeling the odor. Another one I have bought a black pepper. I using it to cook. I using it to cook upper. I using it to cook vegetables. But what I normally observing this time around is if I sleep, because of the way I sleep, maybe by mistake, my body crack my breast, my right breast. I feel some little breathing, and at times if I cleaning it with hot water, observe breathing on it. But I want to ask you whether after cleaning it, can I use the cotton wool to cover the hole? That's my right breast. And another thing is although after cleaning it, it will be dry, and I apply aloe vera on the faces. But what I still it will dry, but it's still showing the symptoms on that my right breast. Thank you, sir.
Oh, all right. I will have to be very honest with you, um, because our first purpose in medicine is not to cause any harm. And if I fail for whatever reason to give you this information, even though um, I might not be held accountable, but responsibility and what we profess will be sacrosanct, in making progress in your case. So, like I said, I will have to be very honest. I've critically observed your case. I have created a definitive plan that we are going to follow, and I'm going to forward it to you. And all my honest submissions will be in that plan. Feel free to, at any point in time, make more consultations as regards to my submissions and suggestions in your case. But always remember that my first aim is to cause no harm. And sometimes, if you remain silent over some issues, you will be causing harm. So, even though I will not directly be a culprit in causing the harm, but because I remain silent, because I don't talk about it, I will be causing the harm. So, all these things you're going to see in my honest submission to you going forward on how we are going to win this battle. For winning, of course, I'm sure we will win the battle because at every point in time, there is need to make adjustment and then have enough discipline to pursue through in that adjustment. And that's what I'm going to do with you to make sure that we overcome this breast cancer and overcome it for life. The question you asked, I will also put answers to it as submission in what I'm going to send to you. And to make it very clear, if you find anything difficult to understand, I will as well drop a voice note. In that voice note, maybe I will speak in a language that you understand. I might use Igbo because I'm an Igbo man to be able to explain to you so that we will be able to clear every doubt. But I just want to point out the reason why sometimes it looks like cancer becomes incurable and how that story can change. You see, it is something that is very, very important, and I am going to be going live with it. So what you do is to pay attention, because even though this program is designed for you, but I want my community as well to benefit from some wisdom I'm going to drop for in the next 20 minutes. So I'm not saying this in fear. I'm not saying it in conspiracy. I'm only trying to point out biology, because there are some basic truths in life that you cannot sweep under the carpet. There is a big question that is not being answered. And that question is, why does cancer become incurable in many people? In many people. And more importantly, what actually gives the body a fighting chance to reverse cancer? If there are people who have beat cancer, like I've seen dozens of people, even people who follow the metabolic therapy that I preach, who have been able to beat cancer and beat it 100%. And I have thousands of names of such people. And I have their pages where you can follow. And the first time I met with you, I brought in one of my patients who was able to overcome cancer. Because cancer itself is not mysterious. A lot of people think it's an arrow fired by the devil, or maybe from a wicked uncle or wicked auntie in the village. No, it's not. But what makes it unstoppable is what happens inside the body over time. Well, the big lie, but that most people believe, is that cancer becomes incurable because maybe they say the cancer is too strong, or maybe they say that the tumor is too aggressive, or maybe they now tell you that it has spread everywhere in the body and there's nothing you can do. But biologically, it is not the full story, because cancer becomes incurable not just because the cells grow. No, cancer becomes incurable because the body environment changes. And this is something that has been established, I think, in 1912 by a man, Dr. Otto Warburg. I'm not going to try to bore you with science, but I'm just pointing out so you know that these are already proven facts in the past. Cancer thrives when the terrain becomes broken. Your body is a terrain. That's why you are hearing some people, they say, let us have an alkaline body by eating alkaline food, eat lots of vegetable, lots of fruits and what have you. Your body is a terrain, and in that terrain, you will either build disease or you will either build health. And let me give you a very sharp instance of what I mean by terrain. When, for instance, you live in an environment where there is a gutter, you know what a gutter is, where there is gutter and there is dirty water in the
Yes, sir.
gutter. Now, you notice that if there is dirty water in that gutter, sometimes in the evening you will notice flies in that gutter. Mosquito will be so much in that gutter. All right. Now, they are flying there because that gutter
Yes, sir.
created an enabling environment. So the gutter is attracting them. Do you understand? Now, if that gutter
Yes, sir.
is attracting them and you being a tenant in that area, you want to fight the mosquito, there are two things that you can do. One of those things is you can buy shelters. Do you know what is shelters? What they use in killing
Yes, sir.
mosquito. You know that thing that we use, that chemical insecticide that is used in killing mosquito. So one of the
Yes, sir.
things you can do is you can buy shelters, and every evening you will go there and spray shelters on the mosquitoes and all of them will die. But the next evening, you will notice again that the mosquitoes will come back again. So that is one thing you can do. But the second thing you can do is to clean the gutter, wash it thoroughly, wash it neatly to the level that even if they serve you food in it, you can eat comfortably. And in that way, you will notice that the mosquitoes will all fly away. So now, this story I told you is very important. If you learned nothing again, understand from this story that what we did in the first instance by using shelters to chase away the mosquito, that is what most mainstream medicine does today. But when I talk about changing the terrain by cleaning the gutter, that is where true healing begins to happen. So whenever you hear me talk about that cancer thrives in a bad terrain, understand what I mean now by this sharp instance or striking instance that I used. Now, in the early stages of cancer, these cancer cells
So,
are often weak. By that time, the immune system can still recognize them, can fight them, can destroy them. By that time, your blood vessels are still fairly healthy. By that time, you are still having oxygen optimal in your tissues. By that time, metabolism is not yet completely damaged. But over time, if we now begin to adopt the measure of using shelters against mosquito, that time you are now not only damaging your body, but you are continuously creating an enabling environment for that cancer. So the body continues to become chronically inflamed. The body continues to become insulin resistant because you didn't change the terrain. You just used shelters to chase away the insecticides and the mosquitoes. So your body continuously become insulin resistant. Your body continuously become oxygen deprived. Your body, your immunity continues to be exhausted. You are having overload of toxins because if you're using insecticides to chase up mosquito, that gutter will be smelling. If you sit there, you are smelling, including the putrefaction and the fermentation and what have you happening in the gutter, plus the insecticides. So what we call that in natural medicine is toxic overload. And that's what happens in the body of very many people who have not only cancer, but diabetes, hypertension, and several other diseases because they continue to treat effects. They continue to use insecticides to fumigate mosquito without changing the terrain, without cleaning the body, without making viable adjustment that will put them in the trajectory of healing. You know why I take time to continue to explain these things? Because the Bible said knowledge is power. If you understand these things that I continue to share with you, you have already overcome. You will have confidence. And there's nothing that revs up your immune system. There's nothing that builds your capacity to healing that is compared to your confidence. Understanding that you are doing the right thing and having faith that that right thing you are doing is going to save you. That's always my story when I meet, including conditions that have been labeled that nothing can be done, including conditions that the doctor have said these are terminal conditions. When I got such conditions, I tried to begin to create that capacity in that individual. Because by that time that the doctor have told the person go home and die, the person would have given up hope. And there is nothing that zaps up your strength, your capacity, your immunity. There's nothing that deprives you more than when you have lost faith and when you live in fear of the unknown. So cancer adapts in an environment where the person is so afraid, where the person is already broken. So that's why I used to say this cancer is not just a cell problem, it is a metabolic and terrain problem. And I'm very sure that you understand what I mean right about now when I say it is a terrain problem. So cancer cells survive by feeding on excess glucose. Please pay attention, because if you understand these things, you will know that that cancer will stop growing starting tonight if you understand what I'm sharing with you. Cancer cells continue to thrive in low oxygen environment. And when I talk about this low oxygen, what does it mean? The blood is the vehicle that carries oxygen and nutrients to every cell in the body. And when there are things in the blood that alter the blood's capacity to carry oxygen, you will notice that there is low oxygen. Now, you notice that 95% of all deaths, when people are about to die, they are struggling to get oxygen. That is why most people who are dying in the hospitals are always put in the ICU and they are put on oxygen. That is for you to understand the importance of oxygen in the body. Now, without oxygen, the cells will begin to die. And as the cells begin to die, the tissues, the system, and the body begins to crash. So, continuous introduction of stress in the body, continuous introduction of glucose in the body, continuous introduction of chemicals in the body that merge with the hemoglobin in the blood will limit the body's and the blood's capacity to transmit oxygen. And that is where cancer begins to thrive. So I want you to know today, if you live in a room that is not well ventilated, it could be fueling the cancer. So what I advise people, even if it's cold in the night, please cover your body, but leave your windows open. Now, if you live in a room that is infested with molds, you are bringing toxins into your body. You think you are breathing oxygen. If you live in a room that is, very close to the expressway where dangerously managed vehicles are releasing carbon monoxide and you are breathing it in day and night, you are harming your body. You are creating an environment that will allow cancer to grow. Please, if you don't take note of these things, there is no magic drug or supplement or food that will solve the problem. That's why I continue to emphasize this. It's as important as it as I'm mentioning them. So if you live in an environment where there is a company that is there that is always producing carbon monoxide and infiltrating the air and you can't breathe in properly, or maybe you are using I pass my neighbor generator every night and you are having your environment and this thing polluted with carbon monoxide, you can't get fresh air, my friend, we must have to make an arrangement to leave that kind of environment, because cancer thrives in a low oxygen body. And let me tell you, the doctor that you may have seen in the past will not tell you this. And that's why I'm bringing it down to basics. Cancers continue to grow in an environment where the body is inflamed, because they continue to exploit your stress hormones. And this is why advanced cancer becomes hard to kill, because those people that have it don't have this information. And apart from that, they might be living in such environment that is poisonous to their body, or that drives low oxygen in their terrain. Now, not because the cancer cells are magical, but because the terrain that support those cancer cells persist. And it's like trying to remove weeds from the soil that keeps feeding the weeds. It's not possible. And why sometimes the treatment stop working, maybe you are using chemotherapy before, or radiation, or you are using drugs that mainly target fast dividing cells. But as cancer progresses, you will notice that blood flow to the tumor will reduce. Fibrotic tissue will now begin to block drug penetration, so the drugs will stop working. Even cancer cells will now begin to slow down division. Cancer stem cells will now begin to hide. Even immunity will begin to collapse, so that those drugs will now begin to reach fewer cancer cells, and the cancer continues to progress. The cells that now survive will now begin to adapt and become resistance. That's why it comes to a level where the person will now say, her cancer is now becoming so proliferate, it's proliferating so with speed, and that disease will continue to progress. So this is why, in some instances, late cancer stage often becomes labeled incurable. Now let me share what I call the missing piece. And that missing piece is what I call the metabolic terrain. The truth is that in today's medicine, we are slowly rediscovering that cancer is deeply linked to metabolism, your capacity to metabolize food, and the metabolic activities of your cells. So when your insulin stays high because of always taking starchy foods or always taking sugary foods, it is fueling cancer. When blood sugar continues to spike constantly, it is fueling cancer. When your mitochondria, the powerhouse of every cell, when it fails in its activity, is fueling cancer. That's why one of my first line recommendation for cancer is coenzyme Q10, and it's part of what I'm going to send to you from the UK. Now, when inflammation never switches off, it is fueling cancer. When you have poor sleep will always cause a spike in your cortisol level. And even though you are now not eating starchy food, you are avoiding sugary foods, but you are not sleeping well, just like you told me that you went out with a friend and you couldn't sleep in that night, that will keep your cortisol level high. And once your cortisol level is high, that means you are signaling the insulin level to be high. That is what one of the things that will continue to cause hyperinsulinemia. Value it even in people who are hypertensive or diabetic, because these things continue to spike your insulin level and cause serious challenges. Now, when your stress becomes chronic, it's fueling cancer. The body becomes a perfect incubator for cancer. And this is why cancer continues to rise alongside diabetes, alongside obesity, alongside hypertension, alongside gut disease or gut dysbiosis, alongside autoimmune disorders. Why? Because they all share the same root terrain dysfunction. So that's why if I'm able to cure you of cancer, I've cured you of hypertension, I've cured you of diabetes, I've cured you of gut health and what have you. Why? Because I've arrested the terrain. And this is something you must do by being disciplined to the protocol. So how do we change this terrain? That is the most important thing. This is where metabolic and lifestyle approach will come in. Not as an alternative, but as a foundation to health, totalitarian health. Now I'm going to walk you through it. The critical pillars of changing this terrain. Remember, I started with the story of using an insecticide or shelters against mosquitoes in a very dirty gutter. And I also shared with you about instead cleaning the gutters and making it neat enough so that you can even stay there and dine. And that is the way you change the terrain to end the infestation of mosquito forever in that gutter. So how do you now change the terrain of your body? Because now I'm assuming that your body is that gutter. How do we now change the terrain of the body? Number one, and what seems like is not important. A lot of people will be saying, how can this point now be so important in healing cancer? Well, I'm sorry, it is. It is. I will cite a lot of group studies that have proven that it is. And one of it is sleep. Optimal sleep is the body's repair lab. When you sleep deeply, your immune cells begins to regenerate. Your damaged DNA begins to repair. Inflammatory markers begin to reset. Your hormones begin to balance. I want you to understand that sleep is not just ordinary. If you sleep poorly, you will continue to raise your cortisol level. I've told you. And what I'm telling you, it has happened to me practically, because I do not want to be delusional. As somebody who have worked so hard in the past 8 years, I've lived in South Korea. I work so hard because I come from a very, very poor background. So I've lived in South Korea and I've lived here in the UK. And because of childcare, I used to do night walks. And anybody who does night work will always have challenge with cortisol being spiked and insulin resistance. So when I'm talking about cortisol and insulin resistance, I'm also talking to myself. Even though in my own situation, I can't help it because I got bills of close to 6 million to pay every month here in the UK. So I have to work, because if I don't work, I'll become an irresponsible father to my children and to my family. So this cortisol is very important because it will spike your insulin, and insulin resistance fuels cancer growth. So getting poor sleep is a no. You can imagine I'm now placing it as number one factor to look at, because all three things that happens due to poor sleep, cortisol, insulin resistance, and inflammation, they all feed cancer. I'm not joking. This is the only way we can change the terrain. There is no magic. I've shared with you the reason why it appears cancer is incurable, because a lot of people who have it don't understand the things I'm sharing with you. So restoring sleep is not optional. It is therapeutic. Now, the second important is your gut health. Your gut health is the immune command center. Listen to me. Over 70% of the immune system lives in the gut. So when the gut is inflamed or when the gut is dysbiotic, it begins to foment problem. Toxins begin to leak into the blood. Immune cells begins to misfire. Chronic inflammation rises. Do you know that in very many autoimmune diseases, in very many mental challenges, I've been able to prescribe gut healing foods and restore those challenges? That's why I told you in the first meeting I had with you that one of my patients who've reversed her cancer will teach you how to make your own yogurt. Now I send the strains that I recommend, the L. reuteri or the Akamensia mucinaphili, to Nigeria. Those it's up to you to make your own yogurt with that, to try to restore your gut. Because if you don't, it will continue to push chronic inflammation, and cancer we thrive in this chaos. So healing your gut is sacrosanct, because healing your gut will improve your immunity. Healing your gut will lower inflammation. Healing your gut will restore your nutrient absorption, because a lot of people are eating wonderfully well, but these foods are not being well appropriated and absorbed by the body because the gut is weak and dysbiotic. So that is what gives cancer an advantage. So you can see now, and I've talked about sleep and I've talked about gut. I place this thing even in front of diet. That is how important they are. And now, the third point is diet, your metabolic control, the way you starve cancer. Because if you want to favor healthy cells and not cancerous cells, you will have to focus more on fats, on ketones, on oxygen efficiency, because cancer cells rely heavily on glucose fermentation. That was what in 1912 Dr. Otto Warburg postulated and proved in scientific research. So by lowering your sugar spikes and insulin levels, you will notice that cancer fuel reduces. Healthy cells will be strengthened, immunity will be built, and this is the science behind the metabolic therapy that I preach. Now, the fourth important one is movement and exercise. Of course, I've told you what to be eating. You have cited a lot of what you are eating already, so I know you understand it. Now, the fourth one is exercise, because it will improve your insulin sensitivity and it will increase oxygen delivery. That's why you notice when you exercise so toughly, you will notice you will be breathing hard, as if you are struggling, you are gasping for air. Exercise will increase oxygen delivery to the cells. So please make it. I've shared with you the importance of taking on the morning sun. And I say the best place to exercise in the morning is during the sunrise, when the sun is coming on, by 10 or 11. I'm not talking about the very hot sun, that burns the skin. No, I'm talking about the early morning sun. By the time it's coming between 9 and 10 or 11, you are outside exercising. Just 15 to 30 minutes. I'm not saying that you are planning for a marathon race. No, I'm just saying that you need to do the basic. And like I said, it requires discipline. And I have spelled healing as discipline. Minus discipline, there cannot be healing. There are no magic drugs, does nothing. Otherwise, it will mask the symptoms and take people to their early grave. So exercise will boost your immune surveillance, and exercise will reasonably reduce inflammation. And I've said even gentle daily movement. I've shared with you the kind of exercise that will help to speed up lymphatic drainage. And I say it is using the trampoline and skipping. If you don't have a big environment where you can put a trampoline, please buy a skipping rope and do it in your bedroom. Except when you want to use again the morning sun, it's good to do it under the morning sun, because sedentary lifestyle feeds disease. Now, the fifth important factor is sun exposure, please, because sun is an immune modulator. God put it up there in the sky for a purpose. It's lately that we are now saying, yes, that sun helps you to ferment vitamin D. Yes, it also helps in mitochondrial energy. And every cell has this mitochondria, and cancerous cells has misfiring mitochondria. That is the biggest challenge, because according to Dr. Thomas Seyfried, it's the dysfunctional mitochondria that causes cancer, because it changes its metabolic pathways. So the sun will help also in immune regulation. When you have low vitamin D, it is linked with worse cancer outcomes. In fact, in dozens of people who have cancer, they have found that they have very low vitamin D. So the sun is not an enemy, but I encourage you to have a balanced exposure. because it will create healing. And the last time again, I told you about community and emotional health. I don't know how you want to do it, but chronic loneliness and stress will raise your cortisol level. Chronic loneliness will cause inflammation and it will cause immune suppression. That's why I encourage people, you must have to have strong social connections. If you are you are a Christian, then you go to church, you join, make sure you join activities in church, make brothers and sisters who can support you, because it will improve both survival rate, immune strength, and mental resilience when you have a lot of people calling, visiting you, encouraging you. So healing is not only biological, it is also social and emotional. And this matters because if we neglect all these 6 factors that I have counted, that is where cancer becomes incurable. Because metabolism is broken, immunity collapses, terrain supports tumor survival. But when we reverse these conditions by changing the terrain, you will notice that your body will now regain the power. Treatment will begin to work better, and healing will begin to accelerate. So, I want you to understand this. It's so simple, but these are the cornerstones of health and healing, because that's what will cause the regression of disease. So, my message to you is that cancer is not just something to fight, it is something to change the environment around. So don't say, you're looking for how to terminate or how to cause or how to fight. No, change the environment. If you take drugs, maybe they can kill the cells, but it's only terrain that grants healing and can stop the growth of cancer. So the future of cancer healing is not either medicine or lifestyle. It is integration. You have to bring in all these factors: sleep, exercise, diet, sun exposure. These things are sacrosanct in the healing of cancer. And I believe that we are going to overcome. And I can assure you, as we work together, we are going to overcome. So never lose hope for any reason. Don't listen to what people, the naysayers, are telling you, sharing stories of people that have died and making you think your case is worse. No, it's not. Like I told you, I'm going to send you my submission of a concrete plan that you are going to follow. And that's the only thing I want you to do. So, for my community, if you or someone you love is facing cancer, understand that there is always something that you can do to strengthen the body. Healing is a process, and the terrain matters a lot. So, thank you again for joining me. My dear sister, I'm going to send you my honest submission and concrete plan going forward. I've already placed order for some of your supplements that you're going to use and some other materials. So when they arrive, we'll look for the next person who is traveling back to Nigeria and send these things down for you to begin. But I'm not asking you to wait for me. You already started. All right. So I'm going to be checking on you to make sure you're always doing the right thing. Because I've shared with you in the past that if you are traveling to Lagos and you enter an Escalade or the Toyota Land Cruiser, and that car is going to Abuja, you cannot get to Lagos. So if you want to heal, you must change your terrain. If you are doing otherwise, then you cannot heal. All right. So, but if you change the terrain and do the right thing, you will notice that even your strength will begin to come back. And that is our aim. So, thank you again. Expect my submissions to you between now and tomorrow morning. But if you have any question, please, you
So,
are
Okay.
free to ask your
I have,
question. You have question?
yes, sir. So please,
All right.
this local yogurt, please, because last time, previous days, you told me you're going to forward me how to prepare it. But I don't know how to prepare it. That is my question because I want to put everything, by God grace, I want to put everything you told me in practice. But this yogurt, I don't know how to produce local yogurt, please.
All right. You know, I told you I have how many people now that are producing their own yogurt, and one of them is going to teach you. But I still need to send your own select strains that you're going to use. I need you to get strains of bifidobacterium, strains of um, L. lactobacillus leuteri, and strains of Akamensia mucinifolii. These strains, I'm going to get them to you because I'm not sure. I've not seen it in Nigeria. I've checked in Gigi, I've checked on Jumia, on Konga. So I suppose I will continue to send it the way I used to send it. So I'm going to send yours, and when it arrives, you can start making your own yogurt. Except you live, if you like, I have somebody in Aba. If Where do you live now?
I'm living at Mary,
Nenwe.
Anambra State.
Newi is in Anambra State. So I
Mary,
have somebody
Anambra
in
State.
Aba. So except if there's any way you can get to Aba, so that the person will, teach you one on one how to do it. Otherwise, I have to send you my own training video. It's not complicated to make yogurt. It's just for you to have the right tools. When you have the right tools, because in breeding these little organisms, you need um what is called a prebiotic. A prebiotic is what they feed on. For me, I use inulin. Inulin is not in Nigeria, but you can use almond milk. You can use powdered garlic. You can use um, powdered milk as well. So, but I will send you a video on how to do it. Maybe by tomorrow I'll send you the video, and then you look if you can get these things. If you can't, I will send them to you. All right, so you can start making your own
So,
yogurt. It will go a very long way in restoring your gut health and in building your immunity, because immunity is the wisest thing to target if you are fighting all kinds of disease. All right, because your body knows how to heal. It's only that sometimes it's inundated with lots of things that are not auguring well with it. But we're going to put an end to that. Okay. So
okay, so,
I'll get back to
so
I'll get
please,
back
I
to
have another
you.
question,
All
please.
right.
So please, this my right breast that I'm feeling water on it. Can I, after cleaning it, can I put cotton wool to cover it? Because before I can remove clothes and sleeve them, because I'm not more wearing bra, I will pour water so that it will dissolve before I can remove this only. But if I remove it immediately, the bleeding continues. So what can I do
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that
yeah, yes,
I
of
can
course.
actually,
Yes, of course. Yes, of
after
course
cleaning?
you can. You can. However, yes, you can. You can use cotton wool, because cotton wool is clean. All right. Once you buy it from the pharmacy store, it's clean. I
Yeah,
said we don't need to expose what we are running away is sepsis. We don't want to poison your blood through that sore wound. So you can use cotton wool, of course, to cover it or to drain it. However, like I said, I have another plan of what we are going to do. I'm going to send you in your WhatsApp. Okay.
okay, so.
All right.
So
All
thank
right.
you. May God bless you and your family.
All right. All right. That's fine.
So,
All right. All right.
thank you,
Bye.
sir.
All right. Mhm.
I'm very appreciated. It's Only God will reward you. It's not me. It's
All
only
right.
God will
All
reward you.
right. All right. All right. All
Thank
right.
you,
Yeah.
sir. Send my greeting to your family, sir.
All right. All right. I'll do that. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.